Several shocking quotes have come out from the Boston Bruins organization revolving around Jeremy Swayman and what the plan is going forward for the Bruins goaltender, as well as this Bruins team heading into next season. We're going to be breaking down what this organization said about Jeremy Swayman, and I'll frankly say some of these will shock you. We're going to jump into all of this here in this video very quickly. Before we jump into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We noticed that just a pretty good percent of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel, but if you're looking on the road, go also follow our Spotify. We have it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, and you can go and get us on the road. Get your Boston Bruins news wherever you may be. But without any further ado, let's get into this video, because there are some crazy things that we need to cover, including a lot about Jeremy Swayman and what the organization said about him in their year-end press conference. Heading into this one right here, Scott McLaughlin has the first one. The first tweet coming out, Don Sweeney on Jeremy Swayman, and clearly we'd like him to get back to that level that he's been more capable of getting into. Now, this should not shock anybody at all. This should be a very, good thing to see the management saying, not calling out Jeremy Swayman necessarily, but putting it out there that they're going to be watching him very closely, and his leash is much shorter than it was last year. But continuing on with the quote that we'll have here in a moment, things are getting a lot crazier when it does come down to the Boston Bruins organization's handling of their goaltenders. We know that there's not very many goaltenders the Bruins have that are going to be solid number ones. It is Jeremy Swayman. They trust him with that contract they gave him, $66 million by 8 years, but that's about it. They have some very solid goaltenders in the AHL, and Michael DiPietro and Brandon Bussi, but neither of those guys have proven themselves to be a starter. Joonas Korpisalo likely to be traded in this offseason after the comments he made that he felt like he should have gotten more games to be played. But that's where another quote comes in here, this time once again from Scott McLaughlin, from Don Sweeney, says the plan is to have more of a true competition in net again next season. Said that in retrospect, he believes there were times that Korpisalo had earned more playing time and didn't get it. Now, personally, I love this coming up from Don Sweeney, fully admitting that, Korpisalo should have gotten those extra games, but when you think about it, you needed to get Swayman on a hot foot, and ultimately it just didn't happen, but the idea was there. The right idea was there to get Swayman into more games, try and get him back under his feet, even though Korpisalo was probably the better goalie at that point in specific games, specific matchups, and kind of in different scenarios around the season. And good on Don Sweeney for admitting this. This press conference was filled with a lot of mistakes from all of this management here, including Don Sweeney, but he really admitted to what he had, but stayed firm on what he believes as well. But it is pretty crazy that they're going to be looking at, and I'll pull this up once again, more of a true competition next season. Knowing that Jeremy Swayman, your guy, the guy that you go out and sign for 8 years, $66 million, the fact that they're trying to get a true competition gives me the thought process and gives fans the process as well that the Bruins are not going to be willing to just let Jeremy Swayman take the net here if he's not playing good. This contract certainly gives him those starting numbers, but if he's not capable of winning games, going out and finding that confidence that he's had for his entire career apart from last season, the Bruins are not going to put him in net if they don't trust him, which is something that very happy to say, even though the contract is something that we all hope Swayman was going to be the next new franchise goalie, and certainly has that possibility, but this was not a good look last season for him whatsoever. But going on to continue and looking at this, the Korpisalo stats compared to Jeremy Swayman, we see there's a big discrepancy in games played there. 58 for Jeremy Swayman, most by, I believe it was 14 games, correct me if I'm wrong, in his career, and then having Joonas Korpisalo play 27. The numbers were, pretty skewed, a lot of this due to, how bad the team was. I feel like Swayman played pretty good in some games, but was a lot worse than it looked like in many others. But I found that Joonas Korpisalo was a lot more solid. I think that, being shown by his goals against average, but the save percentage was not the greatest. I feel like he made the saves when needed. He was very good. He made a lot of very nice saves, but ultimately there was no team in front of him to be able to have that. And even though we all felt like, and so did Joonas Korpisalo, he felt like that he should be in a lot more games, it didn't happen, and it really makes sense. I feel like there was no winning outcome for the Bruins organization here with their goaltending decisions last year. It's either you keep Jeremy Swayman in, try to get him hot, fans are going to be mad that he's not playing well, or you sit him quite a bit more instead of Joonas Korpisalo, and people are going to be saying, you signed the goalie for $66 million, you're sitting him on the bench. There really was no way to find this positive outcome for the Bruins, and I think this was a big learning experience for them, but next year, they're not having it as it comes down to that for those previous quotes that I had read, and knowing the Bruins' system and organization of what they're going to do, Jeremy Swayman, no doubt, is going to be the goalie of the future. And that kind of comes back as well to the first quote. They're clearly wanting to get back to that level. I don't think a trade's in play. I mean, with this quote right here, it doesn't seem like anything regarding that trade or a move for Jeremy Swayman is in play. Of course, things can happen. We've seen crazier, not so much in the NHL, but around, the NBA, we'll say, for instance, this season. But when we're looking at next season, with Korpisalo likely gone, the Bruins are going to need someone who can be able to put Swayman on his toes, make him play better, give him that kind of, in quotes, threat of not being the starting goalie guaranteed. If they want to put some pressure on him, have a goalie there to back up. That's where the Bruins are really going to need to think about making some moves. And whether that is internally calling someone up, trading Joonas Korpisalo, going out here in the draft, getting some free agency, there's so many options the Bruins have. A trade likely is out of the cards, but it doesn't mean that they will not get a goalie elsewhere. And I think that's coming down to a lot of what's going to happen at this draft coming up in a few weeks, as well as, free agency going to be after the season. I do have some screenshots here going over who's available, but we're going to get into those here in a moment. But when we're looking at Brandon Bussi, Mikey DiPietro, I think both goalies have earned themselves some shots at the NHL level. Not for a full-time starting role, but a backup is certainly one of them. And we look at Brandon Bussi here, someone that is older than Mikey DiPietro by 1 year, cannot be placed on, is not waiver exempt, will be placed on waivers if sent up and down, and is a very good goalie when it does come down to it. Right-hand catcher, which is a bit odd for goalies nowadays, unless you're the Washington Capitals. But when it does come down to it, Brandon Bussi and Mikey DiPietro, I think, are both goalies that will be certainly solid backups. And I like the idea of one of these guys coming up next season. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you see a possibility where it's either Michael DiPietro, Brandon Bussi in the NHL next season? I think Mikey DiPietro has certainly earned the position. He's been a very, very solid goalie and also has been one that, really has deserved that spot and has excelled at the AHL level. And the AHL has been very good for the Bruins this season. The Providence Bruins have been great, and that's due to these two goalies playing very, very well. And I think that with Mikey DiPietro being almost the 75% starter for this team, he could really earn a spot next year and have that solid chance at becoming, maybe a possible starter if Swayman doesn't play great again next season. And I hope that's not the case. Obviously, we love Mikey DiPietro, love Jeremy Swayman, but Swayman's the guy that the Bruins wanted to get. He's the guy that we all wanted. And, of course, with the way that Allmark's been playing in the playoffs, it may seem like that trade was a win now. And I'm not going to kind of dive too much into that right now, but, the age is a big difference there for these two goalies. And, of course, Brandon Bussi and Jeremy Swayman are the same age, with Mikey DiPietro 1 year younger. And having these two goalies, or three goalies, I guess, in this age range certainly helps out their future and what they want to see between their tandem in the NHL, whoever it may be. But when we're going here and looking at the potential free agents, and this is not the greatest list right now, because when we look at all of these players right here, all of these goaltenders, there are quite a few who are a bit older than average, quite a few that are not really proven to be solid backups at this point, but there's some that you could and some that will want to be overpaid. And there's a few here that I kind of would point out. I don't want to say that these are anything guaranteed. I don't want to say that these are anything that the Bruins should go after, but if there is a target in the free agency, a guy like Alexander Georgiev, someone who is not that old, but not that young, Vitek Vanacek, some of these younger guys that won't be getting paid too much, that can be and have proven to be able to be backups, also including Ilya Samsonov there, Dan Vladar, those types of names that you would see as a backup. But when you look at this and their Bruins organization where they are now, I do fully believe that when we're looking at the Bruins organization, they have the better goaltending. There's no need to go out here, get those guys in free agency. Now, moving one of those guys up from the AHL to the NHL means that we would have to look at the draft. And now, we do have a list here of first of all, the North American hockey organizations, whichever may be, goaltending here, when it does come down to the top 8 in there. There's a few that we've been able to see. Jack Ivankovich, who played for Team Canada in the World Juniors. He was very, very good. Alexei Medvedev, he's another one that he's been very, very solid so far in North America in his career. And those are just a few here. Joshua Ravensbergen as well. He's been one that is going to be likely the top taken in the first round. And the Bruins won't be going out there and getting. They're not going to be wasting any picks on that. They have enough, but when it's later here. So look at some of these names at the bottom. It's definitely ones that the Bruins could potentially take a look at as another AHL goaltender with hopes of potentially becoming a goaltender in the NHL at some point. Because we know goaltenders take quite a bit to develop. Some of these guys, especially if they're coming out of college, will take longer time, and you never know what happens by then. You never know what happens in a couple years with stuff like this. But when we go over to the European, a lot of Swedish and Russian leagues here, goaltending, once again, some more that the Bruins have been able to look at, some more that we've been able to see, not as much as the North American, just because North American is a lot easier for us to see here over in North America. But for those of you watching right now in Europe, is there anybody on this list in the Swedish, Finnish, Russian league that you're liking? Anybody you think the Bruins should target? And also for those who are in North America, let me know what you think about any of these goaltenders. Let me know here if you have any kind of closer looks at any of these, if you're in your hometown or whatnot. Let me know what you think about them. But finally, let me know what you think in the comments below right now of this video, what you want to see with the Bruins goaltenders. Do you think that this quote right here from Don Sweeney, you want him to get back, and also the possibility of having more true competition? Do you think these are the right things to say? Do you think this is the right idea heading with Jeremy Swayman next year? Let me know in the comments below. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.